What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Manny here. Welcome back to another episode from Albarracin, this pretty awesome sandstone bouldering area in Spain near Valencia. I figured I want to take a closer look at two of the boulders featured in the recent compilation of ascents, just to get a little bit of analytic bouldering done with some really tasty climbing as usual. And before we start, again, a little shout out to my friends at climbingvan.com and vanu.es for making this trip a lot cheaper by letting us use one of their vans. Small companies with cool people, give them a visit. They offer some pretty good services, I think. So let's get into some bouldering here. I'd like to start off with this just epic El Verano boulder, real classic 7C in a sector called Arrastradero, I believe. As you can see, we have here a very overhanging piece of sandstone, specced with crimps, slopers and even jogs. And when I saw this thing from the distance, I immediately thought, I just wanted to check it out, regardless of the grade. A couple of people were gathered around it already and seemed like some good energies there. And it's always fun to just try hard and boulder in that kind of setting, Also, when a group of people just really sieges a problem, there's a pretty good chance you will get some nice beta. And that's of course always welcomed, as it is usually reducing time and skin spent and allows you to eventually check out the next epic problem as well. The boulder starts with some easier moves on good holds, then comes the first crux involving a kinda small and slopey crimp with the left hand, and then comes the second crux, which was quite hard for me personally, to be honest, the mental. Unfortunately, I have only the ascent left in terms of footage. When we were there, we also filmed one or two fail attempts, but due to limited card space, I had to get rid of those. However, thanks to Stefan, we too have some nice close-up footage from the crimp and the mental, so let's try to make the best out of those. In the meantime, I've probably shown the ascent already, so let's break it down here a bit. We start off on these really good holds. I think you could call them jogs. It's basically 4 moves until you arrive at the left-hand crimp, which is quite out there. As you can see, there's also 2 heel hooks involved in the sequence. However, since the holds are quite big, there's not too much precision necessary to place them, which allows these moves to be climbed very fast, which is what I tried here, climbing them as fast as I could. And you see with these kind of problems, which start off on some easy moves, approaching the crux essentially, it's a bit like with talking to girls you're interested in, you gotta get to the point. Why waste time and therefore energy on the easy parts? You want to arrive as fresh as possible at the crux, Doesn't have to be beautiful either. It's always fun to see people climbing slow, precisely and beautifully and technically, just perfectly on easy parts of the climb, where holds are big anyway, So get to the point. The most efficient climbing style is rarely the most beautiful climbing style. Once on the left crimp, something interesting happens. For this crimp to be holdable enough to be able to grab the next hold to the right, we need some sort of counter force which pulls the body under the rock, so to say. It is possible to create that by placing a toe hook on the other side of the boulder, really squeezing the whole block together between your whole body, so to say, which I think is a pretty cool way to solve this problem. And it makes this, a really outstanding problem from a technique point of view, really. To get the toe hook in, you have to throw your right leg on the other side. It's quite tough, to hit it properly. And only now it is possible to move on to the pocket on the right, which for most people is the crux move on this boulder. Since you've created a lot of tension between that toe hook and those 2 holds, there isn't really another way out of that situation than to just, let go of the toe hook and holding the swing on those 2 holds. Now, without wasting time campusing on the next sloper and matching it, it is better than it looks. Don't forget the surface of this sandstone is quite rough, so you usually have quite good grip. And now my personal crux, the mental. Super high right heel hook and then trying to push yourself as high as possible to reach some sort of tiny crimp which is on the surface area of that boulder. My problem was, though, that I never reached it. I climbed there I think 3 times or something and I couldn't reach it. What you can do most of the time with problems like these is that you actually walk to the top of the boulder from some other direction and check out where those exit holes actually are, where they really are, so that you don't have to struggle from the bottom all the time. But even after doing that, I somehow couldn't, get to the top until I applied another solution. You see, the main problem with mentals like these is that your non-hooking or non-high stepping leg, let's call it that way, is hanging down there in the air, having nothing to push you over. That makes it necessary to shift as much weight as possible onto the hooking leg, or respectively the stepping leg, until you literally sit on it, until your whole weight is basically carried by this leg. And it also requires quite some flexibility, Once I did that on this problem, another hold came into range, which I didn't really expect, namely the opposite side of the whole block, the rounded sloper-like thing on the other side, so to say. Once I got that one, I had something to pull my body on top, and from there I simply crawled until I was able to stand up. What a cool problem, lots of details, and such a cool setting, so really recommend it. The second boulder I'd like to analyze is that La Fuente 7C in a sector called La Fuente. So here we have the name-giving boulder, another classic, for good reason, because it's awesome. It looks really simple and straightforward first sight, slightly overhanging wall, couple of crimps and a mantle, but actually contains a bit of micro beta, which I'd like to point out to you. Here we have a couple of fail attempts as well, although now in hindsight this is actually pretty flashable, I think, if you have the level and the micro beta as well. As you can see, first thing I tried, decent foothold right foot, really small climbing shoe wrecking pebble foothold with the left foot. This one we will actually have to talk about one more time in the shoe review. Body strength, locking off right, quite okay starting edge to get kinda bad side pull edge with the left hand. Now it's clear that you have to get the next edge, which is bad, with the right hand. But it's unclear what to do with your feet. So I tried flagging a couple of times, but that didn't really work out. After some time I realized you could go to the right edge directly from the starting hold as well. So I tried that for some time, but you have to hit the edge quite perfectly, and I didn't really manage to stick it that way. It's quite a tough campus move there, and also this edge is quite sharp, and after a couple of attempts I figured I would lose too much skin trying that stuff. So back to the previous beta, I at some point realized one detail. It makes quite a lot of difference whether you take that side pull edge in half crimp mode or in full crimp mode. Why? First of all, for most people, my full crimp is slightly stronger. And secondly, it puts my left arm in a bit more side pulley position, so to say. It's hard to describe, but it allows me to pull my whole body up a bit more and thereby stepping another foothold for my right foot quite on the right. Once I had that position, I figured, well, now I have enough support to try to reach over to the crimp, for the right hand, and voila, it worked. However, as it turns out, it's not over there. When I got there for the first time, I instantly wanted something for my feet, especially the right one. And I stepped that prominent high foothold on the right because it jumped to the eye just so immediately. Intermediate hold, which turns out quite bad, making me realize that I have to jump for the top sloper with the left hand, desperately trying it and, being a bit too short and falling. That was a lesson learned. I thought, probably that right prominent foothold was too high, I couldn't push properly, which made me fail the last move. And I found another, after a bit of searching, lower but less prominent foothold for the right, and reminded myself to step that one on the next attempt, simply. So let's see if that worked out. Again, we have the lock off, left side pull crimp, kind of full crimping it, stepping the right foothold, getting again into this super sharp right edge, and then, just simply letting go with the feet and stepping onto this, tinier but less prominent, but, lower foothold for the right, and then intermediate hold, gathering some momentum, and boom, trying to stick the top sloper, and this time it worked out. Now, luckily this mental is not as hard as on El Verano. Why? Well, because it is not air which is below you when trying to push yourself up, but actual solid rock, since it's only slightly overhanging. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope I could highlight a couple of interesting details on these two boulders. Should you get into the area and you have the level, really try them out. It's pretty good stuff. As usual, drop a like and comment if you've got something from the episode. It helps a lot, as you guys know, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.